Good evening, West Coast, Berbice, New Amsterdam, and of course, right here on the Quarantine Coast. Welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News, when we discuss the important issues that would have taken place in our country over the last week or so. And as I would normally say, Guyana is a very dynamic place, and in any given week there is a whole host of issues that require discussions, because so many things are happening in this country at such a fast pace at such speed that we have to keep going on this program. I want to begin by dealing with rice, and as you know, and for example, most of the program I will deal with the issue of rice, where the rice industry is, and the developments which are taking place in the rice industry. But before I actually get into rice, I want to begin by updating you, the Barbicians, in relation to what is taking place in Georgetown. As you know, the parking meter project is still being implemented. You know the protests which have surrounded this project. You know the controversy which this project has evoked. Up to now, the people of Georgetown, the citizens of Georgetown, who are being asked to pay to park, have not yet seen this contract. The bylaws that we were told were not advertised in the official gazette as is required by law, now we are told have been advertised in the official gazette. So you are learning as you are going, and we are investigating these things, because the gazette is published on certain dates, and each gazette has a number. So if the last official gazette which was published, and that was done on the 4th of February, and it bears the number 210, then the next official gazette would be 211, and the one before that would be number 209, and the numbers are printed on the official gazette. This one suddenly appeared and purports to have been published on February the 3rd, when we had a gazette on the 4th of February. Gazettes are published at periodic intervals, not daily. So suddenly, two sets of gazettes happen to have been published, one day after another, but significantly, they carry dates that do not correspond. In other words, the one that was published on the 4th carries a date that is not sequentially proximate to the other one that came out on the 3rd. So let us say the one on the 4th was number 2, the one on the 3rd was not number 3, was not number 1. It's supposed to be number 1, because it was published the day before, and that's how the gazettes get their numbers. So there is some trickery going on at the level of the government in relation to the publication of that particular gazette, because it is the government that gets official gazettes published for governmental and state matters. So that is being investigated right now, but more importantly, court orders have been obtained quashing the decision to enter into this contract, and quashing the decision of the council to implement the contract. Orders that are called Order Rule 99 have been granted, 3 of them. These orders, the effect of it is to put the whole project on hold. Yet the mayor and city council is proceeding with the project in the face of and in contravention of orders of court that have been granted. I am told, as I was on my way to Berbice, that the chairman of the Private Sector Commission, Eddie Boyer, they went in front of his store and they clamped a number of vehicles. And it is believed that they have done so because the Private Sector Commission is not supporting the parking meter project. So this is the kind of vindictiveness and victimization which is taking place in this country. Because the man is opposed to the parking meter project, they put a whole set of parking meters in front of his building and they clamped vehicles that are parked there. Today, if you're a lawyer and you write the GRA, you are being audited. If you're a professional and you lodge a complaint on behalf of a client, whether as an accountant or a lawyer, you lodge a complaint on behalf of a client at the GRA, then you become liable for an audit and they start to investigate you. 2 programs in succession, I have spoken about fear that is enveloping this country. Right across the length and breadth of this country, people are afraid. They are afraid of the GRA. They are afraid of the powers which the government is giving to the GRA through various pieces of law that they are passing in the parliament. GRA now has a power to stop you from leaving the country, as I spoke about the last time. They have a power to raid your bank accounts. They have a power to demand a whole host of information that would have otherwise been prohibited, and they are confidential information. They now have a power to demand that from wherever those information are held. Then you have SARA bill coming on phone. Then you have SARU operating, threatening to jail people on a regular basis. Then you have SOKU hounding down businessmen. You have the politicians cussing down the judiciary, cussing down the judges. You have the finance minister cussing down the auditor general. So when people, the ordinary man, see all these things taking place, he gets afraid. And he does not want to speak anymore. He does not want to criticize anymore. He does not want to offer a different opinion anymore from that of the government. And that is the beginning of tyranny. And that is the beginning of dictatorship. And we are well on our way to political dictatorship in this country. Up to now, the GCOM issue has not been resolved. You would recall that the chairman of GCOM, that the president rather, wrote to the leader of the opposition and said to him, look, you appoint a nominee and that nominee will meet with the Attorney General to address the issues which surrounds whatever problem we have with interpreting Article 161 of the Constitution. As I have said a million times before, Article 161 is clear. It has always been clear. 25 years we have done this thing. We have appointed chairpersons to the Elections Commission. Desmond Hoyt did it 4 times. 25 years we have done it. And no one has ever complained. Desmond Hoyt never said that the Constitution is unclear, that it is ambiguous, that it is obtuse, that he doesn't understand what it means. And Hoyt was a lawyer, a senior counsel at that. Now you have this president, as soon as the government has changed, the Constitution suddenly becomes a very complicated thing. And Article 162, 161 becomes a very complex and controversial provisions. The language and the intention of that article have suddenly become unclear. So the president said to leader of the opposition, appoint someone to go and meet with the Attorney General and deal with this issue. I wrote the Attorney General and asked for a meeting because I was the person that the leader of the opposition nominated. I took over a week and a half to get a response from the Attorney General and a date was fixed. I went to the meeting. The Attorney General was completely unprepared. He didn't have his understanding of the Constitution available. He didn't even want to articulate and say what he understands the Constitution to mean. So I had to ask him in the meeting, so why are we meeting? Why did the President ask me to meet with you if you don't even have a view on what the article says? So I took some documents in writing that I wrote up, my interpretation of it, of the Constitution, and I gave it to him. I wrote him 2 days after, and I said, I want an early meeting, because at the time when we met, he didn't have a date available for when we will meet again. So I said to him, I will write you. So I wrote him the next day, and I said, I am awaiting a date for us to resume our meeting. Up to now, that meeting can't take place because the Attorney General has not responded to my letter. Briefly, so that's where we are with GCOM. We are in no better position. We don't know what is going on. And then, of course, the government continues in their attempt to seize Red House from the Cherry Jagan Research Institute, though we have a 99-year lease. The President said that he has revoked it. Well, we have not seen a single piece of paper that says that. Not a single piece of paper. I don't know how you revoke a lease. You don't stay home in your house or in your office and say, I revoke, and the lease automatically is revoked. I don't know who advises these people. A lease in writing has to be revoked in writing. The lease itself says that. But our President, I don't know which planet he's orbiting or in what solar system he's orbiting, but he apparently believes that he can just wave a magic wand and say, I revoke, and a lease is automatically revoked. And he has an Attorney General who doesn't seem to know better because he's not advising him better. Up to now, they have not written to the Red House, the President, to say that I have revoked this lease. Up to now. So I don't know why we are in the court. Anyhow, that's a different matter. But the matter is continuing. Follow it in the newspapers. I want to get back to rice. I just met with a number of farmers, I believe 15 or 16 farmers, from number 40 village, West Coast Berbice. These farmers were each given a 50-year-old lease by the PPP government in 2014. They were given the lease during Agriculture Month, which I believe is October of 2015. I'm being joined by the General Secretary of the RPA, Comrade Dharam Kumar Siraj, Member of Parliament and no stranger to you, because as I said, this is a program that we will discuss the rice industry and the state of the rice sector in our country. And Siraj, I was telling the audience that I just met with 16 farmers from number 40 village. They were all given leases by the MME under the PPP Civic Administration during the month of October of 2014. And when this government took office, they read in the Kaichur News a notice informing them that their leases and their names and their lease numbers were published in that advertisement, that their leases have been cancelled and revoked by Charles, Aubrey Charles of the MMA. Well, I don't know what is going on in this country. The revocation of a lease is a legal process. It carries a procedure in relation to how it is. That's correct. You don't stay home and say you want a lease and you get a lease. You apply and your application has to be processed, and then a lease is made out if your application is approved in your name, and you're given a plot of land and a lease in relation to that plot of land. The revocation of a lease carries a process. You have to serve the man and give him notice in writing. If it is a 50-year-old lease, the lease tells you how many months notice in advance that you have to give him, telling him that you intend to revoke the lease, and then give him the date and time when you will revoke the lease, and then on that date you have to send him another letter to say that I hereby revoke your lease in accordance with clause 10 of the said lease.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the leases of MMA, and those leases have conditions.
That's correct.
And I mean, even common courtesy dictates that at least, and there you're dealing with a farmer, common courtesy dictates that at least a reason be offered as to why this man, this family, means of livelihood is being taken away from them.
And significantly, Siraj, when these people got their leases, they went into the land, went onto the land, and they began to prepare, and they started to plant. Many of them bought equipment. They went to courts, they take out things on credit, they went to iPad, they borrow small loans. Some of them went to Jumbo Jet, they buy tractor, they buy plow on credit. And one morning they wake up and their whole life is turned upside down because they read in the newspapers that their leases have been revoked.
And I know that the PDP government had moved towards giving 50-year-old lease primarily to support the farmers in their quest to get financing.
That's correct.
Because banks were saying that a 25-year-old lease is too short a period for the kind of loans that are being requested. Some of the farmers requested, medium-term loans, some short-term. They had what you call rice production credit. And the MMA under the PDP civic administration was very sympathetic towards the smaller farmers and smallholding. And I think these farmers would have fallen into that category.
That's correct. These are small holdings.
Yes, yes.
And Siraj, we had a mechanism in place when we were in government exactly to support what you're saying, whereby MMA was instructed, if requested, to give a letter to confirm the validity of a lease, to give a letter to a commercial bank in order to enable or support an application for a loan by a farmer.
Yeah.
Now that facility is not offered anymore.
Well, there are additional burdens now being placed on the backs of farmers. So those farmers now who have had their leases revoked, I don't know who those leases will now be given to, because we have raised this matter before, and I think we should speak about it here.
No, but the people with whom I met this afternoon, they said to me that it is clear that certain persons have already been identified, and these lands are going to be taken from them and given to these people.
Well, I understand, based on feedback I've been getting from farmers, that 2 members of the current board of directors of the MMA ADA, they hold huge swaths of land.
I heard that
within
complaint.
the boundaries of the MMA.
I heard that complaint right in this program.
Yes.
Right, and I can even call the name. Seeley is one of them, and some other person name has been called.
Yes, one Saul.
Yes, he lives somewhere.
Right. So, and apparently companies were formed recently, and huge swaths of lands are now being given to current members of the board of directors, and these lands obviously will have to be taken away from existing farmers who have 5, 10, 15 or 30 acres. Minimum size of 35 acres that can give them support to maintain lives in some sort of comfort with the additional work that they'll have to do. I mean, if you have to depend solely on rice, you need a minimum of 100 acres as the only source of income. So 35 acres will have to be supported by other jobs that you're doing, and that was then. Now with the decision, now with the decision to move the charges that the farmers protest against from $3,500 in the project area, some 37,500 acres of land there, to $15,000 per acre, is condemning the farmers them to death. It's condemning them.
So I just want to highlight or to conclude the issue with the number 40 farmers, and to highlight that definitely by next week we are going to the High Court to challenge all these purported revocation of leases. I have done it already for the farmers at Seafield, and we have won. The Chief Justice...
But in the case of Seafield, there was some instrument given to revoke the leases.
No, same process.
Same process?
Same process. They read it in the same advertisement. In fact, the very advertisement. The advertisement had farmers from Seafield and farmers from number 40 village. It's a long advertisement.
So how do you respond legally and technically in the courts to such a pronouncement?
Well, Basil Williams came with some fairy tale story that the Chief Justice rejected and ordered and ruled that the revocation were null and void. Firstly, they didn't give the people a hearing. You can't take away a man lease, 50-year-old leasehold interest, which is as good, not as good as a transport, but a substantive document of title, right?
Banks give you loans on
That's correct. So it's property. You can't take away, it's more valuable than a motor car. You can't take away a man's property without giving him a hearing and without any due process whatsoever. And secondly, you can't take away a man's property arbitrarily. The man has complied with all his conditions of the lease. The law says that once he complies with all the conditions of that lease, he must hold the land for 50 years. Then you wake up one morning and you take him back. Although the man has paid his rent, you have accepted his rent, and he has complied with all the other conditionality. So on what basis are you revoking his lease?
That's why they were not written to. They have no basis.
That's correct. And thirdly, they were not even terminated in writing. The thing says that it must be terminated in writing. So they were not given any hearing. They were not given any reason. They didn't breach their agreement. And thirdly, it was not terminated. It was terminated apparently by a decision of MMA. But that is not how the law says it. You must terminate it.
Yeah, that's why I was a bit puzzled that how do you defend a case like that when if the court asks you, well, how do you know that these leases, you have to hold up this advertisement?
No, I had to.
Yes.
That was the evidence.
Okay.
That was the evidence. The only evidence of the revocation was a notice.
In the paper.
In the papers. And the court acted upon that. Fortunately for the farmers at number 40 village, they did not vacate the land. They maintained
their occupancy.
And I want to recognize them and salute them for doing that. And I'm saying now, any person whose leases have been revoked by the MMA, do not give up possession. If you give up possession, then you give up all your legal rights. Stay on the land and let them come and take you off. And then come to me or come to some other lawyer and we will battle it out in the court. But while the case is going on, you must stay on the land. If you don't stay on the land and they give it to somebody, well then that person becomes, unless you can show that that person conspired with MMA to deny you that land, then that person becomes equally entitled as an innocent purchaser for value. That's what the law calls it. So,
well, I want to support that call that you just made to and to encourage the farmers to continue their planting activities, to continue whatever they are doing to ensure that they are in occupation. I think the enthusiasm to go after lands would have waned a little bit after the announcement by the government too about these draconian increases.
So where we are with the increases, Siraj?
Well, farmers have stayed so far 2 massive protests in front of the MMA. One time was in front of management, and on the second occasion, it was when the board of directors were meeting. So all are aware that these farmers, all of them, over 500 of farmers, came there to register their concerns and to register their opposition to this arbitrary decision to increase this amount of rents and their D&I charges. So what I want to, we might have to take it a step forward, and I'll be holding a number of meetings with RPO officials throughout the jurisdiction of the MMA to seek farmers their support to launch a massive protest in Georgetown, to get the farmers in Georgetown to protest this action of increasing their land rent by 600, 700%, to increase the D&I charges by over 400%, and by and large increasing the total charges in some instances from $3,500 to $15,000 per acre. And that is where we are currently. And
let's go slowly. From 3,500
yes,
total charges per acre
yes,
to $15,000 per acre.
that's right.
Oh Lord.
So that is why I said that the enthusiasm between which people were hoping to go after lands would have waned a little bit, given the concerns expressed by the current occupants and current leaseholders that now, instead of paying $1,000 per year per lease, they'll have to pay $7,000 per acre for leased lands. And when the minister held 3 short meetings at 3 different locations, at Bayaboo in Mahaika Creek, at Port in Maikoni Creek and Maikoni Branch Road, and at Hope Town on the west coast of Berbice, he summed it up like this, that what are we complaining about? That the increases is only 3 beers per month, that you can afford to pay that 3 beers per month. In an on-feeling 3 beers. I don't know whether it's Corona beer or Banks beer or whether it's the Grizzly beer or Teddy beer or Panda beer. But the minister was speaking about 3 beers per month. And all the farmers assume he's talking about beer that you drink, whether it's Bank or Corona. And a lot of the farmers said they don't even have money, they can't even afford swank, much less beers. And
but even 3 beers, how much of a beer?
well, I don't know, the increase is
Or 3 beers per month?
per month.
Oh, they're checking it.
However he's checking it. But really, when we met with the MMA Board of Directors, they said that they have outstanding amounts that farmers have not been paying. And one farmer made the remark and said to the chairman, Mr. Chairman, if farmers are unable to pay $3,500 and you have this huge amount outstanding, how do you expect them to pay $15,000 per acre? And I think the Board of Directors was very sympathetic to the cause, and I guess they're being instructed by the government that you have to institute these increases. It's a government decision, it's a cabinet decision. You have to institute these increases against the farmers, and if they don't pay, take them off the land. And
well, I said that to the farmers today, and I want the viewers to listen carefully what Comrade Siraj is reporting. That the MMA board is saying that it's not them, it's not the MMA board, it is the government decision. And the government is saying that if you cannot pay, then get off the land. And they have instructed the MMA to remove farmers from the land who cannot pay. So all this thing is pointing back to the government.
it's a government decision. One farmer said clearly, said, Mr. Chairman, we will pay the $15,000, although in the campaign, neither the APNU nor the AFC said that they will increase D&I charges and land rent. As a matter of fact, what the farmers as members of the RPA delegation said to the board is that they were told in the campaign to vote for change so that the burden will be less, that the D&I charges will be reduced and the land rent will be reduced. And they said the opposite is happening. And they made the claim and they made the call to the board and said, listen, if the government do what they promise, and that is to ensure they get $6,000 a bag for paddy, then they will close their eyes and pay the $15,000 per acre.
Right.
But you pay us the $6,000 a bag that you promised on the campaign trail, and we will pay you the $15,000 per acre land rent and D&I charges that you are now demanding, and without any effort whatsoever. So the ball is in the government court. Pay us what you promised, and we will pay you what you are now demanding, although this was not part of your campaign.
But Siraj, I am told that the MMA ADA is not the only agency that has been instructed to increase D&I and land rent charges.
Well, you're right, because I was surprised at the last protest by farmers of Region 5. They were joined by farmers of Region 6. Farmers came all the way from Blackbush Polar to give solidarity to the farmers of Region 5 because they heard through the grapevine that the government intend to take this practice to the other regions. And I went to Region 4, the Hope Estate, and I saw for myself and noticed on the door of the management office at Hope Estate that rice farmers having rice lands will have to pay $15,000 now per acre. The cattle farmers now will have to pay $4,000 per acre, and the cash crop farmers will now have to pay $5,000 per acre. So you're absolutely correct. This, what they started in Region 5, is going to spread unless we stop it. And by we, I mean all the farmers, starting with the farmers of Region 5, with the farmers of Region 4. We have to put a stop on it. We have to put the pressure on the government to revoke and to recall this decision to implement these charges on farmers who are barely making it. You know, when they were getting $4,000 a bag for paddy, and $3,000 a bag for paddy, the previous government did not increase the charges. So when the minister said that for 18 years the charges were not increased, I was taking that as a compliment to the PPP civic administration. The minister meant to condemn the government by saying that the charges were not increased for 18 years, and if the previous administration was increasing the charges year after year, he would not have to come today and increase the charges by 600 and 700%.
But have they given any compelling reason or any
None.
reason at all?
The only reason the minister proffered was that the previous administration didn't increase it for 18 years. So now it is time to increase it by a huge amount.
I don't understand. Taxes, viewers, taxes that I as a lawyer don't even know existed in this country have been found in these books, brought up and doubled and increased by thousands of percent. I don't know what is going on. Where they find, who are giving them these ideas?
But you know, if an economy is doing well, if people are doing well, if your income is increasing, I'm certain the Guyanese people, farmers included, will not have a difficulty with at least contemplating some increases in your DNI charges and all that. Some farmers actually told me that. They said, Mr. Siraj, if we are doing well, if we are getting our paddy sold at high prices, decent prices, then you know the DNI charges, we can go to the management and have discussion and see where is it that we can take it forward. But not the land rent, because they said the land rent, when we started paying the land rent, the lands were undeveloped and underdeveloped. We have developed the lands.
They were swampland.
Yeah, we have developed the land. We have add value to the land. So you cannot now come say the land rent should go up because we add value to it. You should reduce it. But they are willing, in the face of increased costs for drainage and irrigation, to start the consultation to address that, because they know as farmers that their costs have already gone up, have also gone up. But their costs have gone up and their prices have gone down, and now the government wants to operate like some in the private sector to drive them now to market value. No other government in the world is treating agriculture the way this government is treating agriculture. Absolutely none. As a matter of fact, the rich countries are giving support to the farmers, and this government in this third world, underdeveloped or developing country, is seeking now to impose market prices on agriculture with the hope of gaining more probably to pay for the scandals that they are
America, the great United States of America, subsidizes its agricultural industry to as much as 45%.
Exactly.
They buy out the goods if they can. The farmers can't sell their produce. They buy it, even if they have to throw it away. They buy it and they pay 45% more than what the farmer is selling at.
And that is the great United States.
And that's America.
And yeah,
I was listening to
the capital of capitalism.
Yeah, and I was listening to the speech of a minister out of St. Vincent on YouTube the other night. And they had the opening of a big airport in St. Vincent last week. That our president went with a chartered plane, took a whole.
So we have to increase taxes.
That's correct. They left at Ogle, they chartered 3 planes from three aircrafts. He and all his friends then.
Okay.
They are a whole group of friends and they went all over in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and
I know Jack and Ramatar, Jack, they on Sam, they just travel with 1 or 2 persons.
3 aircrafts full. And they went to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They went to the airport opening. I never hear in my life a president going to an airport opening in another country.
Apparently don't have anything to do here.
But our president went with a whole delegation to St. Vincent. But I was listening to the St. Vincent tourism minister speak, and he was announcing that the government was able to negotiate with some bank 90 million US EC dollars loan for the agriculture sector in St. Vincent. And this is the government pioneering and leading this initiative to acquire financing for farmers.
And here they are taking away farmers'
And
land.
here they are taking away farmers' land and pauperizing the farmers. Because when they take away the land, there's a series of consequences that flow. They can't pay for their tractor, they can't pay for their combine, they can't pay the bank. And if you look at the NBS, in the advertisement in the newspapers, every week look at how many houses are being sold.
Yes, I saw in the last weekend papers that there were a few buildings.
These are people who can't pay their loans. If you go to the courts, go to the High Court in Georgetown or the High Court in New Amsterdam, the day when they deal with commercial matters, and you will hear how many matters are being heard where the banks have sued and where people who sell tractors are suing for money, or they want their tractors to be returned. Yes, get these grand, general equipment, jumbo jet, and all these people, they are in the courts every day because farmers can't pay. And in this kind of atmosphere, you have a government that instead of helping is killing the industry, as it is doing in the sugar industry. And I know, Siraj, that you are part of the sugar committee of the party meeting with the government, and I would like you to say a few words, spend a few minutes in updating our comrades here in Berbice on what is taking place with the sugar industry.
Right. Well, you know, sugar has been here for hundreds of years. Sugar is the reason why all of us are here, including the rice farmers. And it's important, I think you hit the nail on the head, that we speak a little bit on sugar. The last meeting we had with the government, because the government made a grand statement that they will not take any action until they finish their consultation. Their idea of consultation apparently means that we come and we tell you what we're going to do, and that's it. That's what they call consultation. They made some proposal about diversification into rice at Wales Estate. And I said, well, to do what with rice? They said to plant seed paddy. And I said, but the Burma Rice Research Station, which is the mecca of seed production in Guyana, currently have 3,000 bags there that are not being sold. And you're going to go to Wales to plant more seed paddy. Who is going to buy it? They have a contract with GRDB. So GRDB apparently is going to take more of the farmers' money. They give $200 million farmers' money to some small team, including Tony Vera at Wales, to plant seed paddy, and which they will sell back to the rice board, and the rice board cannot sell their own seed paddy. And when I look at the numbers,
where is the rice board selling the seed paddy to?
They're selling it to the farmers, but they themselves currently have been unable to sell their full production. Now, under this proposal that Daisuko has put up, their numbers are pointing to the cost to produce 1 acre of seed paddy, $30,000 or $32,000. There's no way in Guyana you can produce 1 acre of seed paddy for less than 3 times that amount. But in order to make it look profitable, they've put 1/3 the cost of production. If you're the most efficient, you will produce 1 acre of seed paddy for $90,000 or $95,000 if you're the most efficient.
Yes.
Right? But here is it that the government submitted a proposal and they said that they will produce 1 acre of seed paddy for $32,000. It cannot happen. But that is
But
the
they
only
are
way.
so incompetent, they can't do anything.
And that is what I'm telling you, that the most efficient farmer will produce an acre of seed paddy for $90,000 or $95,000. The government, in order to hoodwink some of the people reading the document, and in order to make it look profitable, said that they will produce 1 acre of seed paddy for $32,000. Absolutely impossible. Right? And then they're going to sell this huge amount of seed paddy to the Burma Rice Research Station, to the GRDB, and the GRDB cannot sell their own production. So this project has failed even before it started. Then they propose to sell milk. That's
How many acres of land they plan to utilize? For
well, the document said 420 hectares. So it's over 800 acres. So, but I don't know whether they mean hectares or acres. Even that they can't get right. So in the document, it is not acres, it is hectares. My information on the ground is that they don't mean 400 hectares, they mean 400 acres. But I can only go with what was presented to me in writing. So they cannot even get acres and hectares right, much less the numbers in terms of the cost of production for seed paddy.
Maybe they think it's the same thing.
Maybe they think it's the same thing. I wouldn't doubt that. Then they said that they will make milk now a profitable venture by Gaisuco. So we said, well, who will you sell this milk to? They said they will sell the milk to the government to give to school children. Milk, if you have to sell it to school children, you have to pasteurize it, you have to put it in either bottles or boxes. And I asked, where is the feasibility study? What are the numbers you're talking about? Because you can go in the supermarket and pick up milk from Holland for, low prices, relatively low prices. And then if you want fresh milk from our farmers, you have to buy it for $100 per pint. If you have to pasteurize it, and then you have to put it in either bottles or our boxes to extend the shelf life, then you're talking huge investment, and then the numbers are absent in this proposal. And then you're talking about going into planting other crops and all of that. Absolutely hogwash. And that is why these proposals have no numbers.
We need markets.
Because the numbers does not make sense, and that is why they didn't put numbers to it. So for the sugar workers and the sugar industry, the government is hell-bent on privatizing it. We have to resist that at all costs. And that is why Clive Thomas, and not the board of directors, and not management, but only Clive Thomas, spoke about a study done by Ward Stiller that had absolutely no expertise in sugar factory, but some amount of expertise on power generation. And when Ward Stiller went there, they pronounced on the cogeneration aspect of Skeldon, and Clive Thomas speak about it like if this is the entire Skeldon factory we're talking about. And they went there and they made recommendation on observation when the plant was going through maintenance. And they saw some boilers going down through maintenance. And they said that this is the state of the sugar factory. And they deliberately spoke about it in a dismal way to deliberately undervalue it so that their friends and their cronies can submit bids at low prices for high value assets. And that is the strategy that they were
But you know,
going for.
the amount of damage that people like Clive Thomas are doing in this country. Clive Thomas ever plant a piece cane in his life? You ever go into a cane field? These who are talk about seed paddy and about planting seed paddy, they ever plant anything?
Well, the director of diversification, Anthony Vera, I was told he inherited a sugar factory, sugar estate, cane estate, and had to sell it out. Never planted, right?
Anthony Vera,
yeah.
you and I grew up as paupers compared to Anthony Vera. Anthony Vera is a descendant of the richest family in this country over the last 100 years. Anthony Vera was gifted more lands than a small country, more than St. Vincent. The whole of West Coast and East Demerara estates were owned by the Veras. They gave him it to run. And he ran into the ground, even sell his house out. Went to America, he planted here, and he came back. When he left here, he was bald. When he came back, he had hair in his head. That is all he has to show for an entire estate. I'm talking about thousands and thousands of hectares of land and buildings.
Well, I would go.
And this is a guy who leading the delegation?
Well, he's the director of diversity.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I was going so far as to give him credit for understanding sugar, even if he couldn't make a success of his own estate. But how he is in charge of rice?
But I'm saying that he doesn't understand sugar.
Obviously.
Had he understood sugar, then he would not have become bankrupt.
Yeah.
He owned a sugar estate.
Yeah.
How can you understand sugar, own a sugar estate, and still become bankrupt? Something is wrong with that formula.
So he's in charge of rice now. And he's going to plant seed pan at Wales and to supply to the rice board. And the rice board cannot sell what they have currently. But they took $200 million of rice farmers' money from the rice board. This is not taxpayers' money. This is rice farmers' money. They took $200 million from the GRED, give it to this crew down there, and they're enjoying themselves, ordering lava for lunch, and they're drinking coffee sweetened with packaged sugar. The cooks there at the guest house said that they have been making demands for packaged sugar, and lava, you got to go and buy lava for $1,000 a pound to cook for this crew that goes down there. So they told me that the $200 million will finish and you will not get a grain of rice planted. Right? Because all you're done with fancy lunches and doing feasibility study and running around the place with an airboat.
But see, then why don't you say these things at a press conference?
Well,
Where is his guest house?
right at Wales, it's the Gaisuko guest house. Gaisuko guest house. That, and I understand now that they converted the parking lot for the ambulance into a parking place for one of these airboats that Tony Vera has acquired, has rented or something.
Good night.
Right, good night.
Hi, good night.
Mr. Steer, have you had a pleasant good night to you?
Hi, good night.
I want you to remember this, right, that the protested that Andrew Watley hasn't get a feedback as yet.
That's right. Well, that is why some farmers spoke to me and said I must come with Mr. Nandalal and speak to this matter. Well, we have, since we have made that protest, I understand they're contemplating reducing their land rent so far, but not the DNI charges. We have to put more pressure on them, and they are contemplating doing that. Secondly, we have put a motion in the parliament to get the parliament to debate on this motion, and hopefully the government will give some support to the demands that we are making on this motion, calling for a revocation of the decision. A revocation of the decision to implement this huge increase on the farmers. And then there was another matter that some farmers spoke to me about, and that is indebtedness by Buddy's Rice Mill. And I remember your voice, and your voice was one of the voices that raised this matter with me about the payment. I spoke to Mr. Gadrad, and I spoke to also Mr. Buddy about them making available monies to pay the farmers. I suggested to them that they have big auto industry, auto sales. They should give the farmers their cars.
You just tell me, like, they've lowered the DNI charges by, like, how much? Or you're not
No, but I heard this from some sources, not the DNI charges. I've heard it that they're contemplating reducing their land rent. You know, the land rent was increased from 1,000 to 7,000.
Yes.
I don't know how much they're contemplating reducing it by, but they have not so far indicated any willingness to lower the DNI charges from $8,000, because DNI was raised from $2,500 to $8,000. So we have to put more pressure on them. And earlier on the program, I said that I will speak to farmers about coming down to Georgetown to have a mass demonstration to let this government know that all of us are totally against this decision by the government to impose this kind of hardship on the farmers. So we will not gain victory unless we put more pressure on them.
Okay, thank
All right, caller, where are you calling from?
Woody Park.
Well, thank you very much,
Thank
caller.
you. Okay, so I'm happy that you're here, Sivan, so to
Yes.
update the farmers. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello, good night, Mr. Manala.
Good night. Where are you calling me from?
Yes, Jasper Fuller.
Blackbush.
Yes.
They're coming in there to raise the land rents and DNI charges soon, you know.
Go ahead.
Right, that is why Blackbush Fuller farmers came to support the Region 5 farmers. Because if it starts in Region 5, it's already gone to Region 4. As the Cuba, I spoke to farmers there, they said they hope they don't come there because they are getting $2,000 a bag for paddy now. When the government, when they promised them $6,000 a bag for paddy, I understand the number is $9,000 in Region 6 that they promised farmers.
Well, actually, you see, they're unintelligent because they don't come zero, but it's $900 a bag.
They removed the zero.
Yeah, they say zero doesn't have any value.
Okay.
All right, caller, thank you. We really
Right.
have some problems in this place.
No, and they're putting more problems onto the agriculture sector. I cannot understand how is that this government intend to run this country.
And they don't, as I was telling the leader of the opposition up to today again, that these people do not have to do some of the things that they're doing. They don't have to do it.
But if you're going to charter 3 aircraft to go to an airport opening, where will you get the money from?
Well,
You have to tax the people.
just because the town clerk and the mayor of Georgetown cannot get their way with the parking meter because the court granted them orders, they decided they will shut down the city at 4 o'clock. That they are going to enforce some bylaws that say that all stores must close at 4:30 p.m. So they want to show people, how angry they can be
How powerful
and
they
how
are.
powerful they are. People are going to, they got laws in this country. Caller, you're there.
I want to address another matter too, because it came to the attention of the RPA that, let's take a call.
Caller, you're there.
Hello, good night.
Good
Hi.
night.
Yeah.
Come, caller, you gotta be prepared.
Go ahead. Yes, I want to make reference to this matter of aerial application
Yes, so yes.
of seed paddy, fertilizer, and chemical over rice land. This is an efficient method that is used throughout the developed world, and we have made some recommendation that it should be done. I understand there were some objections, and the People's Progressive Party Civic has taken a decision that in the regions that the PPPC control, that the chairman and vice chairman or chairperson should have consultations with anyone who have any concern whatsoever, so that those concerns can be addressed, because our farmers really need every little thing that they can do to bring down the cost of production, so that they can be able to battle in this hostile environment, an environment that is made more hostile by this government.
Caller, you're there.
Hi, good night, Mr. Nanga. Good night, Mr.
Hi, good night.
I like your program.
Yes,
I
go.
heard something on the news today, which is very disturbing about the lady Patricia Green talking about closing business in downtown of Fort Worth.
I just spoke about it.
Something?
I just spoke about it. Yes, she said that. But what she doesn't know is that bylaws are subservient or are inferior to the real laws.
Okay.
And in 2009 or 2010, Manzoor Nadir we had amended the laws to allow store owners and businesses to open, I think, till up to about 6:30, 7 o'clock
Okay.
in the night. So there is nothing that she can do about it.
But if
Unless this government, of course, going to change the law again.
I think you want to raise the issue here because some of the business focus against the party.
Exactly, because a lot of stores open after that to catch workers who come off their job at 4:30.
But see, Raj, caller, thank you very much. If we want to move our country forward, then we have to dedicate and find more time to work. Societies that are advanced, they don't close, stores don't close.
Yes, you have 24
You
hours.
always have, because a society must be always working around the clock. That's how development comes, at the fastest possible rate. So to prepare ourselves for that, you have to have restaurants open, supermarkets open, and basic businesses open, so that people can have access to goods and services at any hour.
Call up good night. Hello?
We lost that call.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, is that if you,
These people are backward.
call up good night.
Hi, good night.
Yes, you got to speak up, please.
With people and putting all this money within the open, one thing where you can do little place replacement that people get accident on the road and anything.
Hip replacement?
Everybody, they get foot, they knee, their elbow, do get some bone specialist and do some replacement before they
Okay, caller. Thank you. Well,
Well, the cost of medicine, because now you have VAT on it there, so all of that the caller probably is referring to. Caller, good night.
Hey, good night.
Good night.
hi.
You already start about the links, whatever, pay from the people there. When they take away this land, who they will give this land to?
Thank you, caller. Well, the information is that they are giving it to their friends, their cronies, their party hacks, and their party
families.
comrades, their friends, their families. You see, Nagamutu's son-in-law or somebody is the son-in-law, right?
Son-in-law, Joseph.
Whatever his name is some part of this Kelder negotiations.
Yeah. The government deliberately bought the estate so that they go offer less for it. But who is the prime minister relative now coming in to purchase? So it's exactly, they want to take legitimate farmers off the land. They're pressuring the farmers, the prices have gone down, the DNI charges are going up, land rent are going up, they're pressuring the farmers that they will go so that their friends, to make way for their friends and
That's correct.
their families and all of that. But this situation is unacceptable, and that is why we have to mobilize our farmers all over.
Yes, caller.
Caller from South.
All right.
From
Southern.
Carlton.
Yeah.
Yes.
A few days back, I went to the Youngstown Hospital, right, to take a pregnant woman, right? And I decided like to use a washroom.
Now speak up, speak up.
Yeah, I decided to use a washroom, right? And when I go into the washroom, there's a terrible state, like where people say you stink by the state of the washroom. And in the pregnant, the maternity ward, the girl turn and tell me that when I go bathe, you gotta wear long boots and go bathe.
All right, caller. Thank you. Well, someone posted photographs of the bathroom and toilet facilities at the New Amsterdam Hospital on Facebook. And oh my, it was a horrible, horrible, horrible sight.
But these are the people who said that they will clean up. Call us a
You
night.
can't do anything, nothing. Caller, you're on the air. You have to turn your television volume down when you want to get onto this program.
Yeah,
But see, Raj, there is not a single area that you can point to, not one small area in government to which you can point and say, you know what, there has been an improvement.
none whatsoever.
None, absolutely none.
Call us a night.
Good night, Mr. Nanlal, Mr. Jankumar.
Yes, good night.
Doing a very great job on the TV.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, so much. This whole parking meet up here. What we got? A whole bunch of mad people. If it was the PDP who introduced this thing,
Georgetown and Bondang, man, you don't know that?
you know what I mean?
Georgetown would have done Bondang already.
Yeah. So the people of Georgetown should take action. This is nonsense. This is not New York.
But listen, caller, they are planning to put a toll gate by UG and one at Bagatstone by the Harbour Bridge. So when you enter Georgetown, you got to pay a toll. One side, one end can be at UG, University of Guyana, and one can be when you exit, when you go like by Demerara Harbour Bridge at the East Bank. That is their plan. That is their plan. That is the next plan.
Okay.
As soon as they get through with this, it's two toll gates.
They already put 1,700 to the workers, the family, on the deadline.
That's only sugar workers. Right there, they put another 500 more. Private cane farmers and all kind of people.
Yeah.
More on the red line. But these people don't care anything. Absolutely not.
Poor people. They don't care.
And they're like, and you know, people believe that their supporters are benefiting. It is not true. Not more than 5,000 to 10,000 people are benefiting from this government.
We know that. We know that.
Right.
Right.
The dictators.
Go to West Coast Barbies and talk to the black people and in New Amsterdam, and I'm going to be very blunt.
What is this?
They voted for these people, and a lot of Indo-Guyanese right here in Barbies, and let me tell you what their life is now.
What happened, Mr. Nagamoto? Is he dreaming?
Nagamoto hide. When an issue that till at the end, then he'll come out.
Really?
When they close Wales Estate, he happened to be in America. When they're talking about closing these estates here in Barbies, you're not hearing from
I
Nagamoto.
don't go to New York while I'm in New York. Because I'm going to organize something great for him.
Please do that.
Yeah.
But you know, Carl, you mentioned New York. Even in New York and in Manhattan, the cost of parking relative to salary is less than what you're imposing on our people here in Georgetown, a developing country.
I don't know how people, everything gone up. The
Yeah.
internet,
And the city council only getting 1/5 of it. 4/5 is going to the people and move and
80%.
80%, yeah.
80% going to the Mexican company and 20% for the city council. And the contracts were 50 years. Of course, I got to pay for parking to be dead because I can't live for 50 more years.
these people, I don't know, man. These are really fooling all these people.
That is the thing.
Well, the fooling starts since
I said-
2014.
I said to the people of Barbies
And you
and
know, we have
elsewhere,
lots of prominent citizens of Port Morant and where have you, some doctors and so, you know. These are people who go about telling you that, okay, you want to change. They have a good change now. Very good change.
yeah, but they don't live here for enjoy the change.
I know that. I know. Anyway, thank you guys.
Good, you're welcome. So that was a New Yorker spending some time here, enjoying the change.
Hello?
Hi, caller.
Hello.
Hello, good night.
Yeah, good night. I like your program. And
Thank
I'm
you.
really interested in your program.
Thank
Where you
you.
calling from?
I call from Letterkenny.
Letter Kenny. Zulfi, what is it?
Yes.
All right, I think we have to wrap up now, but remember, viewers, on the 5th of March, remember March is the Chedi Jagan month, and we have a series of activities to celebrate and commemorate the lives of Chedi and Janet Jagan. And the highlight of that month of activities is the Babu Jan celebration and meeting which we would normally have. It is on the 5th of March. Remember that date, Sunday the 5th of March, I believe at 4 p.m. the normal time. The 5th of March, I want every single family to be there. You will have the leader of the opposition speaking and many other leaders of the PPP, and we will be updating you on the important things which are taking place in our country. We are going to update you on GCOM. We are going to update you on the economy. We are going to update you on what's taking place at GPL. We are going to update you on what's taking place with our country internationally, with the oil sector, with oil and gas sector. We will update you on the sugar sector. We will update you on the rice. So it's a lot of information that will come out at that event. So please make a special effort. March the 5th. See, let me take one more call. And then
Hello, good night.
we missed that caller. So, Siraj, I invite you to make your closing remarks.
Well, I want to address especially, specifically farmers of region number 5 and to alert them that the RPA will be holding meetings from here. On the 9th of March, hopefully, the motion on the increase of the charges in MMA should come up for debate in the National Assembly. Both of us will be speaking on that motion. We hope to convince the government to revoke that. But we also need the support of our farmers, or their families, to let the government know that this is not a political issue. This is an issue that has to do with the livelihood of farming communities. Entire villages, a whole region, region number 5, will be devastated by these increases. It has nothing to do with politics, it has to do with agriculture, and we call on every single farmer and their family to come out and to give our support when we hold our meetings, and then let us tell the government in no uncertain term that this, what they have implemented, must be revoked, must be recalled. The decision must be recalled, or else this country will suffer tremendously.
Can I suggest, Rajiv, that if we are debating that motion on the 9th,
9th of March.
that we arrange a protest with the rice farmers in front of the parliament?
Well, we'll discuss that
Right?
with our
Let us
farming
work towards that.
Yes.
So we are giving you early notice. If on the 9th of March we are debating that motion, calling upon the government to reverse the MMA, DNI charges and land rates increases, if we are going ahead with that debate on the 9th of March, we want you to be with us outside of the parliament, and some of you can come into the parliament and let them see you as they vote against you and vote against your interests.
Yeah, because
I want them to see you.
yeah, we have to address this issue as an agriculture issue.
That's
As
correct.
a farming issue, and let us, with one voice, let the government know that this move is hurting agriculture, is hurting cash crop, is hurting cattle owners, livestock owners, and it is burden that they will not be able to bear. It is a burden that they will drive them to bankruptcy.
And let my comrade on the West Coast, Jennifer Wade, a rice farmer, let her vote against this motion when it comes on the floor, and we will see. All right, viewers, this is where we have to say goodbye. We have had a good program, and until we meet again, please enjoy the rest of your week and take care. Thank you and good night once again.